Well, hello, friends. Thank you for joining me in this Thursday edition of the Daily Connection. We're into the book of Joshua. We transitioned out of the book of Deuteronomy this morning, and we're transitioning into the book of Joshua and looking at chapters 1 and 2 today. And I want to go to the end of chapter 2 just to kind of illustrate the dramatic difference between the attitude of Israel now versus the attitude of Israel in the first time that God sought to lead them into the promised land. So pick up with me in verse 22 of chapter 2 of Joshua. So the two men went into the hill country and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers had returned. They searched all along the way but didn't find them. Then the men returned, came down from the hill country, and crossed the Jordan. They went to Joshua, son of Nun, and reported everything that had happened to them. They told Joshua, "The Lord has handed over the entire land to us. Everyone who lives in this land and in the land is also panicking because of us." All right. So a little background here. If you go back to the beginning of chapter 2, we're told that Joshua sends two spies to go into the land, especially to scout out Jericho. As I said Tuesday, we believe that Israel is camped east of the Jordan, but in a way they can see Jericho, so the city of Jericho can see Israel. And as they go into Jericho, they go into the house of Rahab, and Rahab's own testimony is that, hey, we know what God did for you in Egypt. He dried up the Red Sea. We know what God has done for you in leading you here. He destroyed Og and Bashan. He's destroyed other nations. We know that God is God of heaven. He's fighting for you. We know that. And so these spies hear her say that. That kind of gives them a little glimpse into the attitude of the people, specifically the people of Jericho, but probably the people of the land. The attitude would have been pervasive, most likely. That they'd heard that the God of Israel was fighting for Israel, and that he had shown himself to be superior to all other gods. So once we come to chapter 2 of Joshua, we're told that they tell Joshua, hey, we can take this because the whole land is scared. They're panicking. What a dramatic difference between what we saw in the report of the 10 spies, of course, excluding Caleb and Joshua. In the first attempt of entry, they gave a negative report because even though God had done these miracles and done these mighty deeds for them, they still didn't trust God. Now here in this second attempt, the second time of entering in, these spies hear what Rahab says, and they realize that indeed everything that God had done was in preparation for them to go in, and the people would already be panicked and fearful, giving them the upper hand, and of course, reminder that God was being faithful to his word. And I love that image there. He says, the people are paying. The Lord has handed over the entire land to us. See what they're saying there? They didn't just say, hey, the Lord has handed over Jericho to us, because that's all they'd spot out was Jericho. They said the Lord has handed over the entire land to us. So whatever other people groups that they were going to encounter, they felt confident that God had put the same attitude, fearful attitude into them as well, and that God had just as he had fought their battles, was going to fight their battles. What a tremendous demonstration of faith. And what a reminder that we don't need to always see history as just something that's past experience. Sometimes we need to look at history as a learning experience, and clearly they had. Number one, they had learned that the way the spies responded the first time is not the way that they were going to be responding this time. But secondly, that God had been faithful. Even in 40 years of wandering, God had been faithful, and he promised to give them the land. He would be faithful now as well. Even though Moses isn't with them, Joshua, their leader, would indeed help lead them into having victory and prosperity in the land. And it's our reminder that we learn from history. We learn from past experience. Sometimes those past experiences are negative experiences, and we learn what to avoid, what not to do, or in some cases, what we should have done. Sometimes those past experiences are positive, where we are reaffirmed in our faith. We're reassured in our actions and our attitudes toward our Father. In either way, we learn and we apply that, and that's what they're doing. They're applying what they believe God had declared, what God had demonstrated, and what the harlot Rahab affirmed for them. So, no matter where you see God leading you right now, whatever challenges you may be facing you right now in your current walk, don't let your history don't let your past escape that. Learn from your past. Lean on your past in some ways. I know we've heard the statement, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. There's a truth in that, but also those who don't lean on their history are also a little less confident in the moment of the present or in the future possibilities. So just as it is with Israel, let us learn from our past. And let us take that and apply that to our current situation so that we can trust God and know God will be faithful in honoring His word just as He always has and just as He always will be. Well, friends, I hope you end the week well. And one thing I want you to think about is that, yes, our time of celebrating our Lord is coming. Sunday is coming. And that needs to be a priority on your schedule. You need to go ahead now and commit to that. I'm sure my brother David Turner is going to remind you of that tomorrow, but I'm reminding you as your pastor today, make worship a commitment. Gathering together with the saints in worship, then gathering in community as small group. Both are essential, both are necessary. So make that commitment now. Finish the week well, and as you head out the door today, wherever God's taking you, whatever you sense God leading you to do today, live with an attitude of being sent.